While hunting to get food for Joel, who is still recovering, Ellie encounters a preacher, David, and his fellow hunter, James. She trades her deer for penicillin. David explains he found God after the apocalypse and is now the leader of a group of survivors. He reveals the man who stabbed Joel was a member of his group. Ellie leaves and injects Joel. The next day, she spots David with a group of men seeking vengeance against Joel. She flees to draw them away from Joel but is captured. At David's camp, he reveals he has been feeding his group human meat. Meanwhile, Joel awakens and tortures some of David's men into telling him Ellie's whereabouts. David and James attempt to kill Ellie, but she murders James and escapes. David hunts Ellie down, but she overpowers him and kills him with a butcher knife. Joel finds Ellie and they embrace, then walk away. Thanks for stopping by the Surge T channel. I am Surge T. That is the synopsis of episode 8 of season 1 of The Last of Us, titled When We Are in Need. Very good episode. Yet another example of how Craig Mazin and Druckmann are able to introduce characters that we grow invested in, we grow interested in, curious about, only to lose them. David, like in the synopsis, he's brutally murdered by Ellie. But then again, he was forcing himself onto her. As alluded in the inside the episode by Craig Mazin, he was kind of grooming her to be his bride, his child bride, whatever. And you can see in her eyes, she was so frightened. And she just was able to get out of there. And she was able to brutally. And it was pointed out by David that she has violence in her. Oh boy, he did find out. He sure found out that she had violence in her. And she stabbed the living you-know-what out of him. And we go to the character of James. And she kills him. And James is played by Troy Baker, who is the voice of Joel in the video games. See, they're introducing these people who have been in the games. Like Perry, I believe that's the assistant of Catherine. He played Tommy. He voiced Tommy in the video games. So we're getting, these people. I don't forget the actress that voiced Tess, but she passed away recently, and she probably would have been in this show too. A little cameo here, or play a main villain character or whatever, But this is the first time that I've seen a character who's like a villain, a bad guy, good intentions on the outside, but on the inside, he is nothing but a evil guy. I mean, I noticed that when they were eating, they're trying to take the deer for themselves. Ellie had shot this deer and died some yards away. And then she goes to them and tells them, you're not taking that deer. It belongs to me. And he's able to talk his way, David is, to kind of get her to see it their way and convincing her, hey, we got stuff that we would like to trade for part of your deer. And all she wanted was medicine for Joel. She gets penicillin. She's able to inject Joel, who's healing. And he's able to recover later. But in that moment, did she really feel like anything was going to happen? She didn't even know where to stick him. She was even asking Joel, as Joel was weak and couldn't say anything. So she was very, very scared. And she was very unaware of what to do. But she did a good job. Good girl. Good for her. And she did what she needed to do. And you can see the absolute love she has for Joel. That they are really, really becoming a father and daughter. That relationship that they have now. Even the moment when she went out of the compound, whatever you want to call it, after killing David, and then she is just panicked. She is catatonic, blood all over her, and then right behind her comes Joel, and she starts, almost like she was doing the stabbing motion still, like she was trying to stab whoever that person was. She didn't know it was Joel at the time, but she had no knife in her hand. And then she realized it was Joel. They embrace, they hug, and he even said, you can hear him say, "I got you, baby girl." And right away I go, that's what he called, Sarah, his daughter, baby girl. And 20 years since she passed away, he never said that in all that time. And you can see that right away now that is where his thinking is now. Ellie is a daughter to him, and he has nothing but love her. The what he did to those guys in order to get her whereabouts, to find out where she was, he didn't care. He didn't care about their welfare. He didn't care about taking it easy on them. He stuck a guy in the knee, and he said, "If you don't tell me, I'm gonna pop your kneecap out." And then he does, but he kills him anyway. The other guy that he had got, these are two guys. It was actually what, three guys that was sent by David to find him, to find Joel. And good thing that he had that knife. I mean, Ellie was the one that provided him with the knife. He said, if these guys come in here, I'm gonna lure them away, and if one of them come in here, kill him. She gave him the knife as he was laying there weak. And we know what happens. He was able to be strong enough. He was still weak. He still was in pain. Probably lost a little bit of blood, but he was healing pretty decent. And he kills one guy, and then he has two of the guys tied up. After he kills that guy, after telling him the whereabouts, he even put the knife in his mouth and said, "Point to where I gotta go. Point where we are." Pretty much he knows where to go. And another guy goes, you bastard, fuck all this shit, Jesus. I'm like, he told you, I'm not going to tell you anything. And he's like, he has a pipe in his hand. He said, all right. And then just bashes his brains in. But he did all that because he wanted to know where Ellie was. Yes, he did find her eventually. And the thing about it is that a lot of people, and I thought too, it was one of those moments. David is on top of Ellie, doing, God forbid, what, I don't even want to think what he was even going to try to do to her. But she's the one that ends up saving herself. Joel wasn't there to save her. She had to save herself. And she did so. And I'm glad. Brutally. I mean, we didn't see what happened, but I watched the thing on with captions, and it said David gurgling, so he was stabbing him in the neck. Go for the jugular. That's pretty much, I believe that's what she did. But she killed him, and this guy was a piece of work. I'm watching it, and supposedly, they got deer and everything like that, and it was made and everything like this and all that stuff. And then you realize later on that it's human meat. The deer, yeah, they cut it up. And you see his plate, and it's full of food. It's like stacked, and everybody else has a little bit of soup, a little bit, the big bowls, but it's only halfway, quarter ways full. They were eating human meat, but he wasn't. He was eating deer. But it's funny because when you saw, I believe it was James that carried the meat in, and he had a look on his face like she goes, "What is it?" And he goes, "Deer or venison." And I'm thinking it was that venison because the way she looked too, and she was the mother of the girl who was crying in the opening scene. And I guess those four people that were supposedly raiders, I guess we thought, because I don't think they ever said it was, but I'm thinking, but then remember he killed one of those guys, and I guess that was the father of the girl. Is hence what started this whole thing of them going after Joel, because Joel was the one who killed him. Because I'm trying to think, they said 4 men. There were 4 men, right? He killed one of them, and they said that he killed one of their men. So, kind of put it together. They were presented as raiders, but they really weren't. They were from this group. But the whole thing with the meat, you know what I mean? I mean, the lady had a look on her face like, oh, okay, it's venison this time. It's not human beings, you know. It's like, but who knows what that was? That probably was the venison, but then the meat that they were getting, the people, was human beings. Even when Joel arrived at that place, arriving where Ellie is, you see a freezer or something there, and you see human carcasses hung up. Very, very unnerving. I mean, I get it. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. But just like the Dahmer party and like, that one flight, remember that one plane crash? It was the setting or the inspiration for that movie Alive when this was it a rugby team, a soccer team? They crash into the snow covered mountains, and then they had to survive, so they started eating each other and all that stuff. Soylent Green is another movie way back in the 60s, maybe 50s. You know, find out in the end that they're actually eating people, something like that. But that is like psychotic. I mean, this is a guy who cares about his people, as he says, but then he's feeding them their own people. The people that die become their meat. And it was a harsh winter, so were they prepared? No. Even David said, we weren't prepared for this harsh winter, and there they are, and they end up having to eat people that only a few people knew, but the rest of the people there didn't even know. They didn't even know. They thought they were eating venison. They thought they were eating deer. No, you're actually eating their own. And I don't know, really, really just creepy. And I mean, this is a very, very like decently presented villain, an antagonist for Joel and Ellie. But again, what Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann do, they introduce these characters, and interesting, we kind of fall into wanting to follow them and follow their journey or whatever, and then they're gone, right? It's really something that unlike in Walking Dead, when The Walking Dead they introduce a character, and the character's there for maybe a season, a couple seasons, and then they die, right? And we grow attached to them. But what these guys do is very, very good. The way they write the characters, they're very interesting. You're kind of invested into following them, and then they die. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this episode. Again, another well written, directed, well acted. We got to see Joel back in action. And the one thing I've noticed about him is that when Pedro Pascal talks in this film, he's got the gruff American voice, kind of, the gruff. I don't know, because I don't think he has an accent or anything like that. Because when I hear him talk, he talks straight American accent, very clear. And when he talks normally, that's the Mandalorian voice. Because when I hear his voice in the Mandalorian, it's like, that's not how he sounds in The Last of Us. That's because he has a different voice in The Last of Us. Either that or someone's voicing the thing, but I don't think so, because he does sound like that when you see him in the inside the episode and he's talking, talking about the character, talking about the scene. You hear his regular voice, and that's the Mandalorian voice. It's like when you try to put both of them, the Joel's voice and then the Mandalorian and Din Djarin, it's like different, like night and day. But yeah, this episode really was great. And I love the fact that there was somebody from the games, playing a character, playing James, Troy Baker. And he enjoyed it. He even enjoyed his death scene. He said that was awesome. Like the way when she revealed that she was infected, because they were about to kill her. And then she ends up taking the meat cleaver and striking James in the neck, and he falls back against the wall and it slides down and is bleeding. This blood is just coming out. I think it's probably one of the most satisfying deaths was David, especially because of the sick thing that he was going to do to Ellie. And I'm glad that she was able to do what she did, but at the same time, is she going to recover from that? I mean, the fact that she killed a guy brutally, a human being brutally, and she was so catatonic, and it took her seeing Joel to snap her out of it momentarily. But is she going to be scarred? Is she going to be able to come back from that and be able to be human again? Who knows? But I guess it's something, a positive of it is the fact that she knows that she can do that at a moment's notice. She knows that she can do that when time comes, because Joel, as proven here, Joel wasn't there. So she needed to kind of fend for herself, and she did so. But what I love about this is that the undying love that she has developed for Joel. She didn't like Joel at first, right? When they first met, the Firefly said, hey, take her to, over there to the, and, get her to the other Fireflies, and they're going to use her, the fact that she's immune, use her blood for a vaccine or something, And to now. And there's one more episode left for the season. And I wonder how it's going to go out. I mean, there was a preview, and all I can see is Ellie scooting back, trying to get away from a clicker. So let's see what that's about. And if she does escape unharmed, hopefully, we'll see. Who knows how long this series is going to go. There's only 2 games, right? So a lot of people are saying that, like, how far can they go? But it's like you can always extend it. They've done a lot of different variations and not following the game, but following the game at the same time. Like they kind of will expand on certain things that were only hinted at in the video game, and then stuff like that. So they can easily do that. It's like with Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, they had a certain amount of comics, right? A certain amount of things, and then they kind of expanded it a little bit. They kind of went past it, But like I said, this really was a good episode. I enjoyed it very much. I love the fact that, like I said, they introduce these characters. I was pretty interested in David and James and named that group, but then now it's like they're gone, and what's going to happen to that group? They're just going to fall to the wayside, and then Ellie and Joel march forward, I guess. I don't know, but that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. I enjoyed it, like I said, and I talked about pretty much what I can recall and remember. I'm not going to try to expand too much, because then I'll start babbling, and then I'll probably go off the rails and not really focus on the episode. Because I tend to do that, especially being tired sometimes, and like when I get off work and all that stuff. I mean, I didn't go to work today, but I'm kind of tired right now, and my head's kind of hurting, so I'm trying to focus on my on the video and focus at the task at hand. But I think I'm pretty sure I covered everything, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a decent video that I put out, and hopefully for those of you who stopped by and watched it are satisfied with what you hear. I can only hope. But anyways, again, that's my video. So for those of you who stopped by and checked out this video, I appreciate it. And in closing, and as always, take care.